This is probably one of the most exciting events for us here, at least for me, for the School of Business, because I absolutely love government contracting, and this is a great panel. I think you'll get a lot of good information this afternoon from our speakers. We have a nice variety of people in the field of government contracting, and again, in the field of government. So we're going to go ahead and get started and let each of our panelists kind of take the lead, introduce themselves, and tell us a little bit about your background. We'll start with Connie.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Connie Welchek, and I am an auditor with the Department of Defense Office of Inspector General. Our office is located in Alexandria, Virginia, and we're very excited to be here today with you all. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Connie. And Michael, I think you're next.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Mike Sanders. I'm the founder and CEO of Interactive Government Holdings. We're currently a service-disabled owned veteran small business doing work in DOD and civilian agencies, HUD, DOT, ATF. We're doing business in the National Guard across 22 states, I think. So we have a pretty broad and diverse portfolio of both federal and civilian work.
Okay, great. And I'm looking for Jessica. Okay, Jessica. All right. How about Rebecca from CGI? Okay.
Hey, Sophia, this is Raed Hamad.
Right.
Myself and Delora are from CGI. Rebecca's one of our college recruiters, but we were asked to join as the panel discussions.
That's perfect. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Raed Hamad. I'm a director of cybersecurity consulting at CGI. I'm a Mason grad from many, many years ago. Looking forward to hearing what you guys have discussing, questions-wise as far as government contracting world.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Is there any other panelists that I'm forgetting? Please let me know. I don't think so.
I'm Delora Parks. I'm also with CGI Federal. I'm a senior consultant with CGI. I'm a business analyst by training. At the moment, I'm a project manager for one of our help desk projects. I'm a Mason grad for both my undergraduate and graduate degree, just having gotten my master's in data analytics engineering this past May.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank
Great.
you.
Awesome. So wonderful. Again, welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question, and we will go back to Connie. If you can just tell us a little bit about what drew you into this career field.
Sure, absolutely. So really, I would say the mission of the OIG, what we do is to ensure ethical conduct within the Department of Defense, which includes detecting, deterring fraud, waste, and abuse, as well as ensuring and promoting efficiencies within the department. So really our mission is a very interesting one. Oversight is something that's definitely needed and kind of opens up a different lens to what goes on within the government. And then secondly, I would say that the Department of Defense really offers a wonderful work-life balance. We think that it's super important, especially in this current atmosphere. It's very important to have that, work is important, but it is not your whole life, especially when you're working from home currently. We have to have that great balance, and that's something that the DoD OIG has been able to afford. So thank you.
Great. Yeah, sure. Thank you. And we will talk a little bit more about that work-life balance question here in a little bit. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so Michael, tell us a little bit about what drew you into your career field.
I was formerly a United States Marine. I was in the infantry, stationed here in DC at 8th and I, where I was a ceremonial marcher for a period, but then was stationed out in Camp Pendleton. And when I moved back to the area, I felt like government contracting was an arena in which I could still serve my country, but have the freedom as an owner to pursue other interests outside of just a career field. And so government contracting is very exciting to me. It's slow moving for some, but I think, once you reach a certain scale, it's very fast moving and things are always going on. And there's always something new to learn. And it's probably the biggest market in the world. So I think that for anyone that's looking to, forge a career path, I think that government contracting is an excellent way to go.
Great, thank you, thank you. So we've got the entrepreneurship piece of government contracting. Great, okay, thank you. And Red, if you could go ahead and talk a little bit about what drew you into this field.
Sure. Interestingly enough, when I was at Mason, I wasn't planning on doing IT. That wasn't part of, I wasn't in business. I was actually originally going to be pre-law, and this was sort of pre-Y2K. And so there was a big market, especially being in this area, for IT professionals. And so I kind of gravitated towards the business school and the Decision Sciences Management Information Systems degree, which I think is called ITOM now. Because I felt like I had stronger analytical skills and maybe technical skills. Again, it's all about when you enter the market, because I entered the market in a very technical time when everybody was doing programming for Y2K. I found myself actually was pretty unhappy doing that and went back to grad school to kind of go back and do some more business administration type work. But kind of coming out of grad school, I was pleased to find out that the market is so large that there's a place for everybody. And so where I initially thought I had made a mistake going into the market because it was so sort of technically driven, and that my softer skills were not, being leveraged or utilized, kind of when I got back in the market, I was able to find a sort of a consulting opportunity that really leveraged that. And so that's kind of how I got back into the market and stayed in the market.
Great, thank you, thank you. I like that you mentioned that the field is so big, there's,
Sure.
space for everyone. So thank you. And Delora, tell us why you got into the career field.
Sure. So I grew up in the DC area. Both my parents were federal employees. So I sort of grew up around both the federal work and all the contracting space. So it's really what I knew. So when I went to Mason, I also had my degree in Decision Sciences and Management Information Systems, which later became ISOM. Again, with sort of the same idea that it was a good marriage between analytical skills and some soft technical skills. I learned early on that I'm not a hardcore coder. I don't particularly enjoy hard programming. So I liked ISOM as being a way to sort of marry a little bit of the technical side, but with a lot of the business side as well. And knowing that contracting is such a huge industry in this area, and I had zero plans to move out of this area, considering I grew up here, I thought it was sort of the best of both worlds. There was a great job market for it, and it really sang towards what I considered to be my great skills, which is sort of a broad range of both business and technical and analytical.
Great, cool, thank you. Thanks for that answer. So with that, you brought up a lot of interesting things about skills. If you can, each of you, I'd like you to talk about specifically what skills you think are important for our students that want to enter the GovCon government contracting world. We'll start, Delora, go ahead again.
Okay. The beautiful thing about federal contracting is there is literally a skill set for everybody. The type of work that the federal government does is so far reaching that basically with anything that you excel at, you'll be able to find a position. So I know colleagues who have strong technical skills that work on system application development. I have colleagues who are in law, who are federal lawyers and federal contracting law officers. I know folks that are library archivists that have federal jobs as well. It's there really is no limit to the amount of to the number of positions and the breadth of positions that the federal government offers, either directly or through the contracting space.
Great, thank you for that. Connie, tell us a little bit about the skills that you think are very important.
Absolutely. I'll echo what Dolores said, that, there really is something for everyone within the federal government. So specifically speaking regarding what I do at the OIG is auditing. So we do have 4 different departments within our auditing division. So the first one would be financial management. So those who really love to look at those balance sheets and crunch those numbers, that would be the place for that type of individual. We also have a cyberspace operations division, which is great for those who are, interested in, perhaps a little more technical side, that they want to use those skills. And then we also have a readiness and global operations division, which kind of does a lot of different things within the Department of Defense. And then finally, the acquisition and contract sustainment. So those people are looking a lot at the different contracts that the OIG has. So there's really quite a variety of things. But overall, for an auditor, really the most important skills are data gathering abilities, analytical skills, critical thinking, staying organized, and I would say that with any job, having some patience and a positive attitude can really go a long way. You will encounter obstacles throughout your projects or in your position, and those little things can really make a difference in how your outlook is towards your job and what you're doing. So.
Great, thank you. I like that you mentioned that about those soft skills. Those are extremely important, and that's what we talk to our students about all the time. So thank you for that. And Michael, if you can talk to us a little bit about skills.
Sure. Echo what Connie said about soft skills. The government is large, agencies are large, and developing relationships takes time. I think if I was in this area as a student, I would be trying to make some of those relationships and attending some of those industry days of agencies I might be interested in, and whose missions I might align with them in my personal interest. There really is something for everybody within the government. Whether you're a website developer or you want to do counterintelligence or go overseas. I mean, since I've been doing GovCon, I think I've been in 10 countries, 91 cities, and flown about 600,000 miles over the last 2-3 years. So there's really a tremendous amount of opportunity, not only to see the world, but to really, develop yourself. And I think the one thing that I would encourage everyone to try to percolate on and ingrain within yourself is that, you need to be a lifetime learner. The market is changing, the nation is changing, the country's changing, things are constantly changing. And if you're not updating yourself and your skill sets and your knowledge base, you're going to be left behind in what's increasingly a knowledge-based, market.
Yes, definitely. We hear you on that. Thank you very much for that advice there. Red, how about you? Skills.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that kind of what the rest of the panel discussion was talking about. But, one thing I realized very quickly when I got out of college was this was as much a relationship type business as it was, a technical business or even a consulting business. And so, I spent probably 15 years of my 20+ year career working physically at a government site, and where my coworkers were, the coworkers that I saw every single day, that I worked with every single day, were actually government employees and not the people that worked for the contracting company that I worked for back in Fairfax. And so those are the relationships that I, sort of developed and fostered and worked with, and you kind of build that trust amongst each other. And so again, then they can start relying on your technical skills, but it's really important that you establish that relationship. Again, it's the soft skills that you can with your customer so they can become, lifelong customers.
Great, thank you. And I want to go back to something Michael mentioned about industry days. I think that kind of goes along the side of networking piece. And I know that things have changed in regards to networking and recruiting and all that good stuff because of COVID-19. If I'll start with Delora again, if you know a little bit about how CGI has maybe pivoted their recruiting strategies and everything to address that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So CGI has been very conservative in how we've been allowing in-person contact since COVID started. At this point, we still have most of our offices closed with the majority of our workforce teleworking. So all of our recruiting efforts have actually spun online. So we are conducting interviews online. We're doing on-campus college recruiting through Mason and through some of our other partner universities. All of that's being conducted online, virtually. Same thing with interviewing and training. Unfortunately, as we onboard college recruits or other job market candidates, we're having to do online training as well, which has its challenges as well as its benefits. But luckily, we're in an environment where we're readily adaptable to online contacts. We have a very diverse marketplace within CGI Federal. We're located geographically across the country, so a lot of people are already used to interacting with their coworkers virtually through. We use WebEx, but it's very similar to Zoom. Through virtually online, through phone, through email. So it's been easily adaptable, and we're finding that a lot of our college recruits are coming in with some of those skills already, since most of our hires are already taking online classes. They're familiar with the tools. It's sort of an easier transition now than it would have been, say 10 years ago. So again, as we take this very conservative approach and making sure that all of our members stay safe, we want to extend that to the hiring field as well.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Thank you. I definitely think you're right. Things have changed, and places are adapting, companies are adapting. So it's good to hear as well. Connie, for the federal government, for your organization in particular, how have things shifted a little bit for recruiting online?
Well, basically everything is very similar to what Delora mentioned. We have had to transition to virtual recruiting versus the in-person recruiting that we've been used to. So really, we actually just attended a fair yesterday. So it's definitely a learning process, I think, for everybody. And we're just trying to reach out, still speak to the students, understand what they're looking for, trying to communicate what positions we have available. So very much similar to what's going on, I think, in the public and private sector are both going through similar things in recruiting.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And Michael, how about for your organization?
We have been geo-dispersed since 2015, having a few people in each state. So largely our processes and tools haven't changed. Our infrastructure is set up to operate in a geo-dispersed manner. We can have people on board through their smartphone. They can take pictures of their IDs. They can fill out their I-9s all through our back-end platform. That was lucky that we had won that contract, which enabled us to get set up that way. It wasn't omniscious on my part. It wasn't great strategic planning because I planned for a pandemic. We just had won a contract that put us all over the country, and so we had to create the infrastructure to support it and to continue growing it. So I think echoing what everyone on the panel has said, I think most companies are, at least in part, used to operating at least partially virtual, and if they're not, they had to get good at it very quickly. And so, depending, I think, on your configuration, on your disposition, on your customers, lucky for us, all of our customers allowed us to do telework. So we were able to put telework agreements in place very quickly and, move our 100 or so employees home. And they were able to continue their work, even doing some things which aren't typically work from home stuff, like acquisition support, employment support, outreach, that kind of thing. So we even had a call center in Vermont move home. So it wasn't a high volume, massive call center, but they were able to move it and function it from home. So.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And Red, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the current situation makes it a little bit difficult for new hires to feel connected with their employers. I think one of the things, I recall very vividly, coming out of college and getting that first job is sort of the new employee orientation and going out to lunch with your manager and establishing that connection that we talked about. That was very important to establish with your customer and with your colleagues. And so, we've tried a lot of different things. We're doing things like virtual happy hours and things like that to stay connected with, especially the sort of the incoming workforce that we have at CGI. But it is difficult. It is difficult. We've got, people now that have worked for us for 6 months that we still haven't met face to face. And so, that is challenging. I think just especially for this group that's going to be joining the workforce here very soon, it's not the way it's going to always be. I think, there are certainly some things that companies are going to adapt to this new sort of style of sort of telework and remote work, but I think that personal connection is still going to be there, and you're going to have opportunities to kind of walk the hallways, soon enough, and meet your colleagues.
Yeah, good. Yes. And I hope definitely sooner rather than later. So
Sure.
thank you for that. And so with that, a good question I have here is, what suggestions do you have for our students to help them connect with employers online? What different things can they do? Are there some strategies they can take to just kind of make a better connection? And I'll start with, let's go with Connie this time.
Sure. As I mentioned, we actually attended a recruiting event yesterday, and what I did notice is that a lot of the attendees had kind of canned responses. So I know that, in this virtual environment, it's very, difficult to kind of make that first impression, and it's nice to have that ability to write something up and share it right away.
Right.
But I think that, just sending that canned response doesn't necessarily show interest in the positions and the employer, and kind of trying to reach out to ask questions about the job, and trying to understand more about the job would really help the employer feel that, you're not just kind of, trying to put 20 eggs in 20 baskets and hoping you're going to get, one chicken, instead that you're really putting some thoughtful effort into the positions that you're trying for. So that would be my advice, really, to help the students at this point, is to really narrow your focus and try your best to pursue those positions that really truly interest you and you have a passion for.
Good. Okay. Yes, I like that. I like that. Being very, very, very targeted in your actions and what you're going for. So thank you. And Delora, anything to add for that one?
I agree with everything Connie said. One thing that I would highly recommend for students is make sure to leverage the Handshake platform that GMU offers. We do a lot of our recruiting for GMU through Handshake. It lets you see not only job openings and opportunities, but other students and folks that have accepted positions with those organizations also provide feedback on how the organization works. So I think it's a very valuable tool when you're job hunting, to be able to help narrow down not only the type of job that you're looking for, but also the company culture that would be a good fit for you. If there's specific ways that you as an individual work and organize yourself, that lends itself more towards success in your career if you have a good fit with the company culture of the organization that you end up with, whether it's a contractor or a federal organization or something in the private sector.
Great, good. And I agree. I think knowing those things will help to give you definitely a competitive edge with whatever organization you're going for. So thank you. Michael, anything to add to that?
In terms of, if you're looking for a specific type of position, I think the more targeted you can be and the more information that you can find out about the agency, the company, the mission, the office, the leadership, how they do what they do, the more informed you are and the more that that those types of things align with the type of work that you want to do and the type of person that you are, the more job satisfaction and engagement that you're going to have, because it's not just going to be a 9 to 5. You're going to actually, that, whether it's, whether you're, anti-drug and want to work for the DEA or, whatever that may be, whatever that noble mission that you find that you may want to serve, if that aligns with who you are as a person, and the skill sets that you've developed through your studying and through the jobs that you've had, you're going to have a high degree of satisfaction in what you do.
Great, thank you, thank you. And I'm gonna change a question. I'm gonna give this one to Red. So in particular, I teach a Foundations to Government Contracting course. It's Biz 315, and the one thing that we talk about is being mission oriented. Whatever it is you're looking for, it's very important to like the mission of the organization and know that that's what you're serving, what you're doing every day. For Red, specifically with CGI, what was it that you think drew you to CGI?
So with CGI, you know, I'm with CGI Federal now. It's been a couple years that I've been with CGI Federal. I've kind of gone through, which is a very common thing in the government contracting world. You know, when I graduated from college, I worked for a company called SRA, which was then acquired. Then I worked for a company called PEC, which was then acquired. Then I started my own company, government contracting company, and did that for 15 years. And then that was acquired. And then now I'm at CGI Federal. And so, you know, one of the things that, you know, kind of what brought me to CGI was they had a really broad customer spectrum. It's a large company. It's, you know, one of the larger ones in the area. And so, you know, I knew sort of early on in one of those first couple of positions that I had is that I was assigned to an agency that, you know, I didn't necessarily, you know, I couldn't get behind that mission. You know, there's other items, and I knew in the government that I could get behind the mission. And so, you know, what I ended up doing, kind of where I had mentioned earlier, I was studying law and I wanted to be in law. And, you know, finally I got to a company that was able to get me at the Department of Justice. And so I immediately said, hey, you know, this is a place where I feel like my interests, the mission of the organization all align. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, I spent 15 years there as a contractor, you know, which is pretty rare to stay at one, you know, agency, especially in this market. But it was kind of whether I was helping the U.S. Marshals, whether I was helping DEA or FBI or ATF, I totally could get behind it. And I felt like, you know, my work meant something. I was more than just an IT contractor, but my work meant something because I aligned my interests and the mission of the organization together.
Good. Yes, yes. Thank you. I like that. Well spoken, very beautifully said. I think it's extremely important to be behind what it is that your organization is supporting. So
Absolutely.
great. Thank you. Connie, anything to say about that mission?
Yeah, I want to echo what Raid said, that really job satisfaction really does, you know, matter. You know, if you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't seem so much like work. You stay engaged. And one of the ways that I've stayed engaged with the DoD OIG is also participating in different working groups, in different committees and councils. So, I mean, it's not just doing the everyday, you know, auditing work that I have, which of course is the main reason that I'm here, but bettering my organization and helping my other colleagues to improve upon different aspects of the organization, because, you know, there's always going to be that need for improvement. So those have been really rewarding for me, and it's something that kind of helps me, you know, I don't even feel like doing that is work, you know, because I really enjoy helping and really enjoy participating in those types of things. So
Great, thank you. I think you bring up a really good point about working groups and councils and just getting involved, you know, being where you are. So I like that a lot. You know, and actually to talk about it a little bit, you know, our students, they have a bunch of different organizations on campus that they can get involved with. So I'll kind of move a little bit the question to the other side. And Michael, let me ask you, you know, what would you think our students should best be and try to get involved in while they're on campus now? What types of activities? You're muted. Go ahead.
Again, things that align with who they are as a person, what they want to do with their life. You know, I'm on a couple of boards for nonprofits, and you know, and for the School of Business, and you know, I don't only find it rewarding from the perspective of giving back, but I also learn a ton on being on boards. You know, because I'm kind of on the younger side for a board member, and the people that are typically there have years and years of experience. And The questions that they ask, I write down. The things that they think about, how they think about problems. You know, the deep thought that they put behind complex issues, and how they break them down into smaller parts. All those are things that I've learned just sitting and listening, you know, and watching how boards and how people that have been down the road a lot longer than me, or a lot further than me, how they operate. And that's been a tremendous value to me. You know, and I get thanked for my participation, but I feel like I'm getting way more than I'm giving. So, you know, I think that's probably true with a lot of things initially. When we start to serve, we end up getting more than we give, you know, so.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And I know that the board's very happy to have you, so thank you. And Delora, anything about what our students should get involved in while they're still here at Mason?
I'll diverge a little bit, and I don't think it matters so much what you get involved with, as long as it's something that you have a passion for. So, you know, you don't want to join a club just for a resume booster. It's pretty easy to see through interviews and stuff when applicants don't have a passion for what they're talking about. So, you know, if you join a club, even if it's, you know, a social type club, or you know, if it's a community service oriented organization, or something that deeply speaks to you, you'll be able to talk about it more passionately. And that definitely translates into having employees who care about the mission, you know, as some of our other panelists have talked about. So we want to make sure that we have folks who are invested in the time that they spend working on, you know, an assignment or a project, and making sure that you follow your passions, even with organizations that you've joined, definitely kind of keep you in line with that.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you, thank you. Okay, let's go back to, I want to go to Riad again, a question about certifications and things like that, because a lot of students ask, do they need a certification to enter the field? How useful are those? Do you have any insights for that?
Yeah, so I would say they are very useful, you know, and that's sort of a change of opinion that I have, you know, in the past. You know, I kind of sort of did not want to sort of advocate for people going out there and getting a bunch of certifications and kind of having alphabet soup behind their name. But I will say that it is important in that, you know, from a government contracting perspective, especially like when we try to do work with DoD or some of the other larger agencies, they have sort of predefined expectations of what certain labor categories or positions we fill and what those certifications come. So a lot of times, you know, a certification or a degree or years of experience, you know, you can kind of offset each other. But it is important that if you find a certification that you think you're interested in going after, it certainly will help you. It does not hurt to have those certifications. I don't want you to think, though, coming in at entry-level positions, that expectation, especially with CGI, we don't have an expectation that individuals come in with a bachelor's degree and 3 certifications, but it is something that we do like to see them pursue after they've joined the, you know, sort of joined the industry and seeing what they're interested in. We don't want, you know, people to go out there and say, I'm going to go get ethical hacking training, you know, before I even get a job that's, you know, in cybersecurity, and then they realize, you know what, I'm more functional than I am technical, and so that was a kind of a waste. Or so it is beneficial, I will say that.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the insights on that. And then Connie, anything to add about certifications?
Absolutely. In terms of an entry-level auditor, no certifications are necessary. You do need to have a bachelor's in accounting if you want to be a financial auditor, or at least some type of business degree if you're going to be a performance auditor. What I would say, though, is that those graduate schools and other certifications will help you as you progress up the ladder. You know, when you are competing for positions, you know, those can be things that hiring managers will take a look at. that. For instance, with the auditing profession, having your CPA is definitely something that many accounting majors have. And then a certified fraud examiner is another certification that many of our auditors have, as well as the certified internal control auditor. So, again, those things aren't mandatory. And like what Raid said, it's not something that we expect you to have on day one. Many of our auditors are pursuing master's degrees currently, or going through those certification programs. So those are just opportunities for you to further your knowledge and also meet your CPEs, which is your continuing education credits, which are super important in our field. So
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that insight. Michael, anything regarding certifications?
Personal certifications, I think, sort of align with what I was talking about earlier in terms of having a continuous learning approach to life. I agree with Raid in terms of it should align with something that you want to do. I always encourage people to grow out of stuff instead of into stuff. But I think that going a little deeper than that in terms of GovCon, company certifications are the thing that you'll be pursuing next after you have some personal certifications. And there's a lot of industry movement right now in that space in terms of the cybersecurity CMMC maturity, which is coming about, trying to come about, and the AB board, which is creating the requirements, and so in terms of maturity, and I think this is applicable personally as it is professionally to a company, I always encourage companies that I mentor to be as mature as they have to be. In terms of where they are as a business, because if you're over mature, you're paying for things that you don't need, and you're paying for processes that you won't use because you're not large enough to use them, and I think that holds true personally too, is that you should take, a certification, a class, a course, online, in person, whatever, that aligns with where you are and where you want to go in sequence. And I think that will help you, sort of take a bite out of the elephant, if you will.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So, Delora, anything to add about certifications?
Just sort of echoing Michael, you definitely don't need to have a certification coming straight out of undergrad. Get a couple years of experience first, find out where you fit, what your interests are, what you're interested in pursuing, and then look at potentially getting some certifications. They do open the doors for additional opportunities. So once you're maturing into your career a little more, you can make that decision on where you want, what direction you want to head in, and certifications can help you get that. But it's definitely not something you need as a recent graduate.
Great, good. Thank you for clearing that up about certifications.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Of course, yes.
I think what Dolores said was very apt. If you get certifications too early, I mean, if you're 22 years old and you start getting certifications, you may pigeonhole yourself. And, employers, and I'll tell you, because I'm one and I've hired thousands of people over my career, we're not looking at things the same way. We know people there's a lot of different options, and we know that you guys are trying careers and staying places for 2 years and trying something else, and that's okay. It's not necessarily a negative anymore that you've been 2 or 3 places and tried 2 or 3 things, especially if you've been successful, if you left the proper way, gave the proper notice, and have the reference point that you did good work while you're there. It really shows that you're trying to progress your career and try to find your swim lane or your niche. And so, don't feel like the old adage about having to stay someplace 20 years is still holds true. Employers know that's not real anymore. So, I would encourage you to, try 1 or 2 or 3 things across the federal government, try some different agencies if you're not sure, and then make those decisions about where you want to spend your money and time getting certs on.
Yes, I think that's excellent advice. Yes, definitely. Employers are not expecting you to stay in a company 20, 30 years anymore. I mean, it would be nice, but it's just not really relevant
we
anymore.
want them to stay, but we know that they got they got other horizons to look at now. So it's okay. We get it. We try hard.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. So I want to go to Connie, and if you can tell us a little bit about your typical day.
Well, the only thing about a typical day is that it's not always typical. That kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, you know, having a patience and a positive attitude, because honestly, every day is different. You know, we're not at a job where you're, you know, data processing and just doing the same thing every single day. What I would say is that every day I am talking to our clients, I'm working with my team, we're analyzing data, and then or researching new projects. So like I said, it's never the same every day. It's really varied, and which is what I think makes this position very interesting. What I do very interesting. No two audits are exactly the same. The way we approach them, the people we talk to are always going to be changing. It's very rare that we're dealing with the exact same people every time. So it's great to kind of have that ability to not get bored. You know, within the framework, obviously, we write an audit report. We have certain steps that we have to take, but outside of that, you know, it's a very, we get to do a lot of different things. So.
Great. And if I can ask you as well, what type of entry-level positions are there available at your organization now?
Sure. So within my actual department, we do have entry-level auditors. There are some other entry-level positions within the OIG and, of course, the federal government. So that really, there's something to fit every person's interests. I would go back to what Michael and Delora were saying about, you know, people don't stay necessarily long-term. Well, the great thing about the government is that you can stay with the government long-term doing a variety of different positions. So, and those all count towards your years of service. So it's like working for the same company, but you can do a whole host of jobs. So that is definitely something to consider, and one of the great benefits of being a federal employee. So I will put that plug in.
Great. And if I can ask too, I'm assuming OIG does have the Pathways program as well.
Absolutely, we do. And that's one of the great things that we're looking for is as far as those interns who start with us, you know, we love to hire those interns who are hardworking and really prove themselves during their internship. So if we're able to take advantage and we have the billets available, you know, we definitely do convert them to permanent positions. I actually started in the organization with an intern who worked in my area, and she is now a full-time auditor. So you know, it's great to see her, you know, having progressed from a student intern to now, you know, a full-time employee who's brought a lot of value to our organization.
Yes, that sounds very rewarding. That's nice. Thank you for sharing. Great. And Michael, how about entry-level positions for your organization?
So we are staffed right now headquarters wise. We're looking for people at DHA, both at Walter Reed, Belvoir, and the Del Curia building, which is in Bethesda. Unfortunately, you have to have a DWIA 1, 2, or 3 for those positions. We have some guard positions. Unfortunately, they're across the states and not in Virginia. The next set of people that we're going to be hiring are, as a matter of fact, we were going over that today, plotting out, you know, some things. So we'll be hiring contract help because we've recently beefed up our proposal, our bids, our growth vertical. So now we'll need the back office support to support the growth. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of hiring. We'll be hiring contract specialists, AP and AR accountants, and project control specialists, and payroll and HR support.
Wonderful. Great. Make sure that you let our Career Services office know about those as well.
I will. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Raid, can you tell us a little bit about entry-level positions there at CGI?
Sure. So CGI has basically 4 categories that they'd like to put their entry-level positions in the college entry. One of them is a technical analyst, functional analyst, like a business analyst type position, a cybersecurity analyst, and then a software developer. And so typically we see most of our college recruits come through one of those four positions. Each one of them has its own position description slightly, obviously different and different in the ways in terms of cybersecurity versus functional or technical versus business analyst. And we also have internships. We love having people coming in as student interns, in their sophomore or junior years, and then, finishing an internship with us. It's a 10-week paid internship that we do, and then we'd love to see converting them over to full-time employees when they graduate. We want them, when it comes to the time when you're getting ready to graduate, and we want to be the employer of choice. And so hopefully getting you guys to understand and know what our culture is through an internship, through a 10-week internship, is a good way for you to learn whether we're the right spot for you or not.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Delora, anything else to add?
No, we work for the same company.
Yep. Okay. All right.
I just add though that there is within the functional analyst position there is quite a wide range of degrees that get hired for that. I mean, we've had English majors, we've had, like, I was an anthropology major as well as my DMIS. Sort of all over the place. So for our functional analysts, we're looking for people with good writing skills, people who have good analysis, speak professionally, can learn quickly. We're willing to train on the job, and that's where the internship position comes in so handy, because it is on the job training. But don't limit yourself just because you think you don't have a technical degree, or you're not a programmer, that the functional analyst position wouldn't be for you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you each one final question, and then I'm hoping that we will have a lot of questions from our students, because usually they have a lot of questions. So we want to make sure that we get those answered. My last question would be, what one piece of advice would you give to our students? Connie, start with you.
Sure. I would honestly say to take advantage of all of the opportunities that are presented to you. Basically, we've been talking a lot about internships. Any of those are super advantageous to learn what it's like to work within a business atmosphere, to learn some of those communication skills and whatnot. And additionally, I would say, even studying abroad or any type of extracurricular activity or interaction really helps you to broaden your horizons, learn new things, different ways to communicate, how to deal with different people. I mean, I would say that so much of my job is working within my team, which is of course comprised of different personalities. I enjoy the different personalities, but they don't always get along 100%. And same thing goes with our auditees. When we're working with our clients, there may be somebody who doesn't want to do something or help you with something. So trying to figure out ways to communicate with them, so the more you get out there, the more you have those relationships and deal with people who are different from you, it'll help open up a lot of doors when you get into the professional world.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Michael, any advice for our students?
I would say be patient, have faith in yourself and the skills that you've developed, and continue to learn, continue to meet new people and try new things. And there's never been a master that wasn't first a beginner. So don't be afraid to be a beginner. As a business owner, there's things that I do every day that I've never done before. So I would just say be patient and realize that things will come together, and you'll get to where you want to go.
Great, thank you. Okay, Delora?
I'd also echo Connie's recommendation to take advantage of some of the internship availabilities that are out there. Large organizations, small organizations, a lot of them are looking for summer interns or semester-long partnership interns. And that really gives you a taste of what it's like and helps you acquire some of those professional norms that you might be missing from, you know, working retail or some of the other typical college type of jobs. Being able to integrate yourself into a professional workplace can sometimes be a bit of a culture shock. So the more experience you have at that, at a low stakes level, such as an internship, will definitely give you a leg up, not only in interviewing for a full-time position, but you know, the habits that you adopt early in your career are gonna follow you down the road. So take advantage of any internship opportunities, do some research on workplace norms, try to figure out what exactly you as an individual find to be the most rewarding, and then seek out opportunities that match your skill set, but also match your desires and your interests.
Great, thank you, thank you. Raid?
Yeah, I just think, you know, kind of be out there and be yourself. I think it's important to know that employers want to know who you actually are and not who you think they want you to be. And so make sure that you are expressing everything that you want to, your interests and what, you know, that kind of stuff. And that comes across in your interviews when you're meeting people. You know, I think especially most of us that have been in this, you know, industry for a while have done, kind of Mike's point, thousands of interviews probably. And so, you know, we know when somebody's being genuine and when somebody's trying to answer the questions that they think that they want me to hear.
Right.
And so make sure you just be yourself, and I think it'll be, it's beneficial to do that.
Yes, great. That's excellent, excellent last advice there. So thank you all. I want to go over now to the questions because we have quite a few. There was a first one from Ona's question was, what is the security clearance requirement for internships? And I think I saw, Michael, you answered that one. If you wanted to expand on it just a little bit.
I said typically for corporate ones, there's not a requirement unless you're going to be working on a contract that requires it. But if you're working internally at a headquarters, typically there's not ones required. However, I do have some interns that went to MIT and then got internships at DITRA and crazy places that they did have to get clearances for. So I'm not saying that's a universal truth, but I think typically because internships are short and the clearance process is very long, those two things do not match up well together.
Right. And I will also add with that any security clearance that you get is actually tied to the position. It's
Yep.
tied to the job, not necessarily the person. So if you need it, they'll find a way to help you get it if you qualify for it. But yeah, it's tied to the job. So
I'd also add that a lot of internships don't even have citizenship requirements. So it really depends on the contract you're going to be working on. So we at CGI, we do have a lot of non-US citizens that work on some of our government contracts. It really just depends on the agency.
Good. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, that's a very good point. Good
I
point.
will chime in on that just because I saw somebody ask that question. So for the DoD OIG, and for our audit division, we are looking for US citizens, even for our internship position. And that's just due to the nature of the information that we're looking at. Additionally, you will be put through the clearance process. You don't have to have any type of clearance. We don't expect an intern to have one, but you will be put through the process to have your background checked and have at least a minimum secret security clearance. So those are things that we'll do if we have selected you to participate in one of the internship positions, or even as an entry level auditor. The expectation is not that you will have those when you come in, but the US citizenship requirement is something that is a hard and fast rule for us.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. There's a question about majors and relating to internships. Which one somebody with a business and marketing major? Okay.
I answered that question in the chat, Sophia. I can answer it again.
Okay.
I mean, I think,
Yeah.
especially large companies, have marketing departments. Smaller ones, you're going to have sort of a hybrid approach. We're a small business, so I have a lady that used to do comms on the Hill. She has 4 kids now, so she does our editorial calendar from home. She posts from home. She has buffer, so she schedules all of our social media posts. She does our employee spotlights, all that kind of stuff. But I think for a business marketing specialist, I mean, like Delora said, like Raed said, you could really, I mean, you don't have to have the degree that matches up directly with the job that you want. What you need to be is well-researched. You need to understand the position really well and what value that you bring to that position. Even if it's not necessarily those one-for-one, apples-for-apples skills, you can bring tangential skills and, you know, be a quick learner. And I think generally people are looking for those that are flexible and willing to learn, as opposed to those that are, you know, overly qualified and talented and not willing to learn.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so, okay, a good question here about networking on campus, networking activities you can't do because we're practicing social distancing. And I think we talked about that in terms of how to differentiate yourself when you're online. You know, just the idea of being open and not necessarily saying what it is that employers want you to say, but instead being yourself. So I think we discussed that one. Oh, here's a good one. Does your company highly value and accept previous government workers due to clearance and experience in government regulatory offices? Is it kind of like an automatic hiring factor? That's probably one for Connie, maybe.
Sure. Having prior government experience can be advantageous, but it really kind of depends on, you know, what position you are working on and how it relates to what we do at our organization.
Yeah.
So I would really say that it depends. And for an entry-level auditor position, that's not required at all. You know, we're really looking just for people who are self-starters, who want to engage with us, and who are interested in learning some new skills. So
Great, thank you, thank you. Okay, any other ones here that I missed? Okay, there was a question here for you, Raed, about interviews. Limited experience to portray who you are and who you are trying to aspire to be. What sort of examples from school life or even short-term work would really stick out for an employer?
Sure. So the last time I actually did on-campus interviews at Mason, I was interviewing, you know, one of your probably classmates, and he was really focused on talking about his capstone project, because he didn't have a lot of, you know, experience. He had some retail experience, and he worked in a restaurant, and he was just juggling a whole bunch of things. And, you know, I kept on sort of drawing the interview back. Hey, talk to me about what you're doing with this. I want to know about this position here, where you're talking about, you know, sort of waiting tables and bussing tables and doing that sort of thing. And it ends up being that it's a family business that he's supporting to help his parents. And, you know, sort of at the end of the interview, is kind of like, that tells me so much more about you and whether I want to hire you than some of the experience you think I want to hear about. And so, you know, I kind of, that, you know, don't shy away from things that you think should be on your resume. No one expects everybody to have an internship at CGI or at Intel or at Microsoft or whatever it is. You know, there's going to be experience that's on there that really is going to help us value you as a prospective employee. So I think just focus on those things. Don't be embarrassed that you might have limited experience. That's not an issue I think you should be sort of concerned with. There are other kind of life skills, people skills, communication skills, you know, that we really, you know, if you're a waiter and you served as a waiter for 4 years, then I know you know how to multitask, you know how to talk to people. Those are things that I think were much better than, you know, for me to sort of latch on to during our interview than some, you know, you programmed something in Access or whatever it may be.
Yes, great. Thank you. Thank you. I would definitely say that's so important. You know, those life skills that we have, that we all build, are very important and transfer to professional skills, no matter what it is that we do. So, okay, so it's been an hour and we are done. I want to thank all of the presenters today for coming in and speaking with us and for giving our students wonderful information. Thank you again. And I hope everyone has a good evening.
thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best of luck to all the folks who are graduating this coming December.
Thank you.